So in this video, I'll be talking about functions, and more specifically about its definition, and also about domain and range. So first of all, let's start off with the definition. So what is really a function? So a function is actually the correspondence between two sets of values. So we could write them out like this. So here we got our two sets of values. Let's say in this set of value we have A and B, and in this one C and D. And so each value in the first set corresponds to another value on the other set, and we have a term for this. So we'll call the first one the input and the second one the output. So you could almost think of it as like a machine or something, where like if you input something, it'll transform it into something else. So if you put in, imagine in your computer you put in the letter A, it'll work with it and then it'll turn it into C. So, but there's also another term that we can use for both of them. So the input, we call it the domain. This is an important term. And output, this is the range. And you can also say that the domain, you, like on a graph, we also represent it by the letter X, and the range we represent it by the letter Y. So let's see, for example, if we say that in the domain, every value of, like the value of A corresponds to the value of C in the range, and that the value of B in the domain corresponds to D in the range, this is a function, because the domain has one value which equals to another value in the range. However, there are some exceptions. So one value of in the domain can equal another one in the range. However, like this, the value of A, for example, in the domain cannot be equal to both C and D. It is only allowed to equal to one of them. And the other way doesn't work like that, however. Here, so if both A and B are equal to, like, correspond to the C in the range, this is a function. However, this way is not a function. So let me show you using a different example. Let's remove all of these. So now, let's imagine you slept very late. What could happen if you do sleep very late? So this is the input. This is what you put in. You decide to sleep late. What could happen is the next day you'll be tired. But then there's, what if you stay up all night, like this guy? You could also be tired the next day. Oops. So both of these have the exact same outcome. However, if you look at it, imagine you just sleep late. Or no, sorry, let's do it like this better. Imagine you didn't sleep at all night. And so what would happen is you're going to be tired the next morning, but you wouldn't be like fully aware of everything, and you wouldn't be efficient in your work. So this arrow right here doesn't work. You wouldn't be able to link the two here, because like not sleeping does not lead you to being efficient, but it does lead you to being tired. So this is why one value in the domain cannot equal two different things in the range. So there's a different way also of looking at this, which is a bit more visual and easier to look at. And this shows up also in the IB exam, sometimes in the easier, like in the earlier marks in the exam, you can sometimes find this question. It's about the vertical line test. So imagine you have your curve right here. Let's say this one. And there's actually a method of you use this vertical line. I think I mentioned this in a previous video before. Oops, okay, wait, let's put this forward. There we go. So if you swipe this vertical line like this across your curve at any single moment, like at any moment, there should only be one value that it equals to. So let's try the test with different curves. So this one, as you can see, when you pass it, there's only one value that it touches on the curve. Whereas if you use, let's say, this one, right here we start on top, you can see it crosses once. However, as we go on, it crosses twice. And this is why, this is also another way to see that two values in the domain, so here the domain is x, like one value, sorry. So if you say like your x value would be 1, it is not allowed to be equal to two values. So here like it would be around 2 and around -3. These two values are not able to coexist to be able to make a function. So this wouldn't be a function. We can try with some other ones. What would you say about this one? You can try it on your own as well. So with the vertical line test, you can see it crosses once only everywhere. So this is a function. Finally, let's try with this one. Common example that they use, the circle. You can see here at any point, it always crosses twice. So this is not a function. Let's do a final exercise. So this is, it's not necessarily an IB question that the IB created, but it's in a style of the IB. This is helpful for you to understand better the concept. So here you can see there's two sets of values for each of the examples. All the pink ones here, well, I write it down, are going to be the domain, and the yellow ones are the range. So this is the input, and the yellow ones are the output. So what I'm asking you to do is tell me for each of them, are they a function or not? So if you want to do them on your own first, you can always pause the video. So let's try the first one, A. First of all, what would you say? Is it a function or not? So you can see that here the 1 is corresponding to the 6 on the range. The 2 corresponds to the 7. The 3 also to the 7, which remember we said was possible, that two values in the domain can equal the same value in the range. However, here the trick is, if you look at the 3, it actually is equal to both 7 and 8. And so this would be not a function. So A is not a function. Let's move on to B. Really try to pause the video. It's really helpful to try to do it on your own before getting the answer, obviously. So yeah, if you got this one is a function, because you can see each value in the domain corresponds to one value in the range. and this one right here, you can see 1 and 2 in the domain both equal to the value of 2 in the range. But remember, this is still a function. And finally, let's go move on to C. This one's tricky. I didn't mention it. Let's see if you can get it. You can now just pause the video. So this one is actually not a function. Even though you can see that each value in the domain corresponds to one value in the range, actually the 4 right here in the domain isn't corresponding to anything. So if you had a curve, like, oops, let's move them. If you had a curve, let's say like this, your 4 right here would be like a random point, and a single point doesn't make a function because it doesn't correspond to anything. So therefore, this last one, C, is not a function. And then in the next video, we'll be looking more into the domain and the range and how to find them, and especially how to write them properly for the exam. I hope this was helpful.